My husband has an intense attachment and obsession with his sister, often referred to as a sister complex. My sister-in-law and her husband have taken to invading our home, treating it like their own, and occupying our space as they please. They rummage through my personal belongings, using and taking them without permission. My husband, for his part, turns a blind eye, which emboldens them to gradually escalate their behavior. I cannot tolerate this anymore. From here on, I would like to share my struggle until I decided to divorce. My name is Jessica, and I recently turned 28 and received a promotion at work. It may seem early for some, but I feel that my efforts have paid off, and I'm quite satisfied in my personal life. I was enjoying the blissful everyday life with my recently married husband, Tom. I was recognized at work and married the man I love, so my life was somewhat satisfactory. One day, I was assigned to go on a business trip. As it was my first time, I was a little apprehensive but also excited since it was an opportunity brought about by my promotion. After the promotion, I had been given more business trips, often day trips, probably in consideration of my newlywed status, but this time, I was assigned to go on a 3-day business trip. I communicated this to my husband. "Oh, that's harsh on a newlywed, huh? Well, I'll call Sarah over," he said. Sarah is Tom's younger sister. She is married, but Tom still dotes on her in a way that's somewhat unsettling. "What do you mean? Why is Sarah coming over?" I asked. "Well, it would be tough for me alone, and Sarah's good at house chores. I thought if she helps out, we can manage while you're gone. So go on your business trip without worrying. Oh, and don't forget to bring back souvenirs." I wanted to say, "No, you should be able to do some house chores too," but I held back. Personally, I wanted to avoid having Sarah over at our house. She's someone who lacks common sense and behaves as if our home were her own. She would frequently visit unannounced, putting me in a bind. However, it seems she's been communicating with Tom often. One day, Sarah and her husband showed up at our place unannounced. I was hoping Sarah's husband would be a sensible person, but my hopes were dashed. Sarah's husband also lacks common sense, and both of them were incredibly selfish. "Hey there, are you preparing dinner? I'm starving. Make sure to prepare my shirt too," he said. What's more complicated is that Tom seems to dislike Sarah's husband. He harbors some animosity towards him for marrying his beloved sister. Additionally, Sarah's husband has a gambling problem, spending his weekdays after work and weekends at the local casinos. "What the hell, you're here too? I didn't invite you. You're a bit cold to me." "Huh? Well, I don't care. I'm just here to eat for free," he said bluntly. They think only about themselves. My husband keeps grinning at Sarah, which I find absolutely infuriating. Moreover, it seems Tom lets Sarah into our house even when I'm not around. As soon as I come home, she'd be relaxing like it's her own place and say, "Hey Jessica, I'm hungry," as if it's a habit. Despite noticing my frustration, Sarah often takes and uses my belongings without my permission. She uses my cosmetics freely, and when they run out, she says, "Hey sis, this one's all gone. Buy me a new one. Will ya?" Who do you think you are, using my stuff and asking me to buy more? I could possibly say, my husband, Tom, doesn't understand my complaint, saying, "She's just happy to have a sister now and wants to share things with you. Aren't you happy to have a sister too?" It's baffling, and he won't take my concerns seriously. With Sarah planning to come over while I'm on a business trip, who knows what she'll get up to? I've got to find a way to stop this. I say, "Sarah, you're also married and must have housework to do. Could you manage without being here for 3 days? I'll prepare meals for those days." But Tom responds, No, she's happy to come. Her husband is always out gambling. She's lonely. Are you jealous or something? We're very close siblings. We help each other in times of need. Just go on your business trip and don't worry. Inside, I'm screaming. I'm not jealous. I just don't want Sarah in my house. But all I can manage to say out loud is that so?" Without another word, I go on my business trip, fearing for my belongings and worrying that the house will be taken over in my absence. Returning home after my 3-day business trip, filled with anxiety, I find Sarah lounging around. Despite her promise to take care of the house, it's a disaster, and daily necessities haven't been replenished. "Welcome back. Thanks for your help with everything. You can go home now," I say, trying to be polite but firm. Sarah responds, "What? I'm staying over. We're having my favorite for dinner tonight." What do you mean?" I ask, baffled. Sarah and I decided to order sushi tonight. I was flabbergasted at my husband, who seemed so happy about this. We always decide what to eat together on the day I return from business trips. Then I realized Tom hasn't contacted me at all during this trip. I try to talk to Tom about this privately. Hey, I just got back from my business trip and I'm really tired. I want to relax without having to consider anyone else. You understand, right? But he just brushes me off. It's fine, right? You two are like sisters. I feel a surge of annoyance at his nonchalant response. Apparently, Sarah had been staying over for the entire 3 days while I was away. Despite this, the house is not cleaned, and I wonder what she was doing all this time. In addition, when I go into my room, I find some of my cosmetics and accessories missing. The expensive new toner I recently purchased, my absolute favorite, seems to be running out way too quickly, considering I've been using it sparingly due to its high cost. Moreover, several of my accessories have disappeared. Angrily, I ask Sarah, Sarah, did you use my stuff? To which she casually replies, sorry, it was just perfect on me, so I used it, but I'm going to give it back, so don't worry. Infuriated by her nonchalant attitude, I decide to discuss this with Tom again. Come on, she's just borrowing. It's fine. You're too narrow-minded. Why can't you trust my sister? He says dismissively. Nothing I say seems to make a difference. Exhausted, I can't accept this, but I fall asleep anyway. 3 weeks later, I get another business trip offer, and it's for a week this time. When I inform my husband, Tom, he is surprised. A week? That's quite a long time. Well, I'll ask my sister to take care of the house again, so don't worry and go. I decide to address the issue directly. I don't want you to invite Sarah to our house anymore. Hearing this, Tom gets angry. Why not? She's our family. The last time, you said you asked Sarah for help with housework, but nothing was tidied up when I got back. Struck by this, Tom averts his eyes without a word. I think you know this too. Sarah always takes my personal items without permission. She says she's borrowing them but never returns them. Tom seemed to concede. All right, but I'd be in trouble if there's no one to do the laundry for a week. So, I'll have her come over for 1 day and send her home without letting her stay. Is that okay? Well, why don't you do the laundry? I asked. I've never done it before. I have no idea how. I'll teach you how. No, I'll just have her come for 1 day. Tom stubbornly refused to do the housework, or perhaps he just wanted to invite his sister. Exhausted, I finally said, all right, do as you please, but make sure she doesn't stay over. I stressed this point to Tom, but I didn't trust him at all. When I returned home a week later, Sarah was lounging on our living room sofa as if it were her own, with no signs of having done any housework. Hey, what's all this about? Well, there were more chores than I expected. I asked Sarah to stay over yesterday and today because it was too much for her. I thought to myself, I knew it. What do you mean? You promised it would be just 1 day. Hey, don't be so alarmed. She's your sister-in-law. Besides, you're the one who leaves for business trips. You should be grateful she's helping out, Tom said. What? You understand what business trips mean, right? It's not like I'm going out for pleasure. You keep making excuses and ignoring what I'm saying, I replied. Well, it turns out Sarah is divorced and has lost her job. There will be times when you can't handle the housework because of your trips, right? She said she's okay with it, so I thought we could let her stay with us. What? What are you talking about? Why are you making decisions without consulting me? As I've said, you can handle the housework. It's not every day. This isn't just your house. We need to support each other in tough times. You should feel sorry for her too. What are you thinking? Breaking our promise and making such decisions on your own? I can't trust you. How can you say that to your husband? It's just for a short time. Sarah promises she'll find a place to live and a job soon. We have an extra room, and she's already given up her apartment. She doesn't want to live in the house she shared with her ex. I was stunned to learn that my sister-in-law Sarah had divorced, become single, and was now asking to live with us. How dare you make decisions without consulting me? This is the last straw. You're so inconsiderate. What do you think of this family? If you're going to act like this, then do whatever you want. I grabbed my suitcase from my business trip and stormed out of the house. Leaving was the easy part, but with no clear destination, I ended up at an internet cafe. After a short break, I started to calm down. At that moment, my husband Tom called me. Come on, Jess, you don't need to be this upset. My sister is in trouble. I can't just ignore her. Now that you've cooled down, think about it. She's offering to help with housework. It's not a bad deal, right? Do you remember the promises we made? Besides, I can't trust your sister Sarah. Honestly, I can't stand her. What are you talking about? If you're so opposed to living with her, why don't you just leave? Is that really okay with you? Fine, I'll do it. I don't mind at all, but don't come crying to me if you regret it. Tom hung up angrily. After the call, my feelings for Tom began to cool rapidly. I'd had enough. He'd caused me so much pain, and now he was pushing me out, but I'd make sure he regretted it. After that, I devised a plan and gathered the necessary supplies. I then set my plan into motion, and as expected, I received a call from Tom. Just hear me out. This morning, out of nowhere, John showed up at our place. Tom was panicking, stumbling over his words. Ah, your brother is here. I invited John, who is great at house chores, to help out. I also spoke with Tom's parents and sent Sarah back to their place. With Sarah gone, it was just John at the house. Tom, flustered, said, "This is so strange. Why did you bring him over without asking me? I thought it might be tough for you without me here. John is good at housework, so I thought he could be helpful." Tom, it's difficult for me when someone suddenly shows up and starts doing chores. I feel like I have to be on my best behavior in my own home. Why? Sarah did the exact same thing to me. At least you could have given me a heads up. You would have refused if I had told you beforehand. Besides, I was never informed in advance when Sarah was coming over. Tom fell silent, looking guilty. How selfish can you be? Expecting everything to go smoothly for you but not for me when I do the same thing? It seemed he was beginning to realize his mistake, but this was just the beginning. The real revenge was only starting. So that's the situation. You can ask John about the housework issues. Bye. I hung up the phone before Tom could respond. He kept calling persistently, but I ignored all his calls. The next day, as planned, I asked my brother to help with the next phase of my revenge. As expected, my husband called immediately. "Jessica, I need your help," he said, his voice trembling with desperation. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" I asked, feigning innocence. "Wrong? Everything's wrong. Your brother's using my stuff without asking. My suits, my bags, even the new accessories I just bought. I haven't even used them yet." "Well, you were fine with your sister doing the same thing, weren't you? Remember when I complained? You said, 'She's your sister, let her use it. Don't be so stingy.' Your selfishness is astonishing." Tom fell silent, unable to counter my argument. "I've also informed your parents. I'm sure your sister is getting an earful from them right now. She's getting exactly what she deserves. At least my in-laws are reasonable." "You involved my parents? How dare you?" "Well, you were the one who wouldn't listen to me." Tom was flustered, clearly not expecting me to involve his parents. I had even asked them not to contact him for a while, and they agreed. A few hours later, I returned home with my in-laws and sister-in-law. As soon as we walked in, my husband started venting his frustration. "You're finally back. It's been rough because of you." Instead of responding, I ignored him and gathered everyone in the living room. I played a video on the TV, and my husband and sister-in-law went silent as they watched. "What is this? Why are you showing this?" Tom demanded, bewildered. The video, captured by a hidden camera I had set up before my trip, showed my sister-in-law rummaging through my belongings and taking things without permission. It was no surprise they were stunned. "I'm sorry, but I didn't trust you too, so I recorded this before I left," I said. What have you done? Is this some kind of crime?" My father-in-law erupted in fury after seeing the footage. "At your age, you still can't tell right from wrong? How shameful." My mother-in-law, also livid, had her face flushed with anger and was on the verge of tears. With that, my revenge was complete. I handed the divorce papers to Tom right there. "Are you seriously asking for a divorce over this? Is this some kind of joke? Do you think this is a joke? Do you have any idea how much this little thing, as you call it, has tormented me? You never listen when I voice my concerns and always put Sarah first. She took things from me without permission, and they were never returned. It's theft. I could even sue her. Now, sign the papers." He was visibly shaken. while my in-laws watched in silence. Eventually, he signed, resigning himself to the situation. I took the signed papers and began packing. Seeing me, Tom tried to stop me. "Wait, Jessica. If you leave, I won't be able to afford the rent here." Tom was right, the apartment was well located and expensive, and he couldn't afford it on his own. My in-laws looked on with pity, but I felt no sympathy for Tom. "I don't care anymore. You're a stranger to me now. You can figure it out yourself. You and your sister can find a place within your means." I left the house and went straight to file the divorce papers. I moved into an apartment closer to work. My ex-husband bombarded me with calls and emails, but I blocked all his contact. I have no idea what he's doing or where he is now, and honestly, I don't care. Free from the stress, I'm now enjoying my single life.